I didn't mean to hear it. I wasn't even supposed to be there. But life has this funny way of pulling back the curtain when you least expect it. And once you see behind it, once you know what people say about you when they think you're not listening, there's no going back. It started on a Thursday. The air was cool, unusually crisp for late May in California. Finals week had wrapped up, and I had taken a spontaneous trip back home to surprise my parents. They'd been going through a rough patch. Nothing dramatic, just that quiet kind of distance that settles into a house like dust on an unused piano. I thought maybe a visit would lift their spirits. So I didn't tell anyone I was flying back. Not even my best friend, Alyssa. I'd known Alyssa Morgan since middle school. She was the loud one, the charming one, the center of every room she walked into. And I was the background. I didn't mind it. I didn't crave attention the way she did. We balanced each other out, like sun and shadow. Or so I thought. That night, I had just landed in San Diego and called a rideshare. My parents weren't home, and the house key I kept on my chain had disappeared weeks ago. I knew Alyssa had a copy. I'd given it to her years back when I was scared to be alone. She always said, "I'm your emergency person." So I didn't think twice. I asked the driver to reroute us to Alyssa's house. It was almost 9 p.m., but her lights were on, and the music from her backyard was unmistakable. Fleetwood Mac, her go-to chill playlist. I figured she was alone, unwinding. When I reached the porch, the front door was open just a crack. I stepped in and called her name softly. No answer. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Not just hers. There were at least 3 voices, maybe 4, echoing from the patio. I started walking toward the back. Her house had this long, narrow hallway that always creaked under pressure. I took off my shoes to avoid making a sound. Not because I was trying to be sneaky, but because it suddenly felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like I was interrupting something sacred. That's when I heard my name. Rachel is so, I don't know. She just takes everything so personally. It was Alyssa's voice. The world stopped. Right? Another girl replied, someone I recognized, Kaylee, I think. Like, the way she always plays the victim? It's exhausting. My hand froze on the doorknob. Alyssa laughed. That high-pitched, mocking laugh that always made me feel safe until it didn't. And she's always so grateful, like we're doing her a favor by including her. Girl, we're not a charity project. She's just lucky we let her hang around. The next voice was male. Deep, familiar. Didn't she call you crying last month about some internship rejection or whatever? Alyssa again, louder now. Yes. And I was like, girl, maybe if you actually spoke during interviews instead of sounding like you're about to cry, people would take you seriously. They laughed again. This time, I backed away. Every footstep on that wooden floor was like a drumbeat against my chest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the door open and confront them. I wanted to ask why. But I didn't. I turned around and left. I sat in the dark rideshare car for 20 minutes before telling the driver where to go. I couldn't go to Alyssa's. I didn't want to go to my parents. I didn't want anyone to see me like this. So I checked into a motel near the beach. It smelled like sea salt and mildew. The curtains were stiff, the bed sunken in the middle. But it was silent. No laughter. No voices behind my back. I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone still in my hand. I hadn't even closed the Lyft app. My fingers were numb, but I couldn't cry. I couldn't even blink. My heart felt too full, like if I moved, even slightly, everything would spill out. Why? That was the only question repeating in my mind. Why would she say that? Why would she, after everything? I remembered the night. She called me sobbing because her ex had cheated on her. I had left work early, taken an Uber across town, and spent the whole night holding her while she dry-heaved over a bottle of Moscato. I remembered covering for her when she forgot our group project deadline and blamed it on me. I took the hit because she promised she'd make it up to me. She never did. I remembered the necklace I gave her on her 21st birthday. The one my grandmother had left me. Because Alyssa said she'd never gotten anything that felt real before. And now she was calling me a burden? The next day, I tried to shake it off. I went to the beach. I drank an overpriced smoothie. I even texted my mom and told her I'd be by later that night. I pretended everything was fine, that I hadn't just overheard my best friend slicing open my heart with a smile on her face. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, laughing, making me the punchline. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. And the worst part? She didn't even know I knew. For a few days, I stayed quiet. I didn't reply to her texts. She sent a couple. "Are you in town? Thought I saw someone who looked like you." And later, "Are you okay? Haven't heard from you." I didn't respond. Instead, I watched. I scrolled through her posts, her stories, her mutuals. I looked at the comments under her latest photos, smiling with those same people who laughed about me behind my back. It made me sick, but it also gave me an idea. What if everyone saw what I saw? What if I wasn't the only one who knew the truth? By the time Sunday came, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to sulk in some moldy motel room while they played puppet master with my name. No. I was going to expose everything. Not for revenge, but for the truth. Because people like Alyssa, they don't stop until someone makes them. And that someone was going to be me. The morning I decided to expose Alyssa, I didn't wake up feeling brave. I woke up with crusted mascara on my cheeks, a stiff neck from sleeping sideways, and the sour taste of takeout Thai food still lingering on my tongue. But beneath it all was something sharper. Something new. Clarity. For so long, I'd excused Alyssa's behavior as just how she is. Blunt. Loud. A little dramatic. But no, she had used me. And worse, she made me believe I needed her. Now I needed to let people see who she really was. I started with my laptop, sat cross-legged on the motel bed, and opened a blank Google document. The blinking cursor stared at me, silent and judgmental. Where do you start when you're about to dismantle a lie? I began with the truth. Line by line, I wrote about how we met. How Alyssa stood up for me in 8th grade when some boys called me Ghost Girl because I barely spoke. How she told me I was special. How she made me feel seen. Then the shift. How she always took center stage. How every conversation somehow became about her. How she forgot my birthday 3 years in a row, but cried when I didn't post about hers within the first hour. I documented every instance I remembered where she manipulated people, twisting words, gaslighting, pretending to be the victim. How she used others' insecurities as tools. And then I wrote about the night I returned unannounced. Word for word, I quoted what I'd overheard on her patio. By the time I finished, my fingers were trembling. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. I spent the rest of the day deciding what to do with it. Should I post it on a blog? Send it anonymously? Create a burner account? But that wasn't me. I wasn't a ghost. Not anymore. If I wanted to reclaim my narrative, I had to own it. So I saved the document, formatted it, and titled it, "The Truth About My Best Friend, An Open Letter," by Rachel Carter. I wasn't sure where to publish it. I didn't have a big social media following. My Instagram was mostly beach photos, coffee cups, and a few selfies. But I had a TikTok account with around 800 followers, mostly classmates and a few random people from a makeup video that went viral last year. It wasn't a big stage, but it was enough. I recorded a video. Just my face. No filters. No edits. No makeup. I didn't want to do this, I began. But I think it's time I stopped letting people walk all over me. I kept it short, just under 2 minutes. I didn't name names, but I hinted. I read parts of the document, especially the quote where Alyssa called me a charity project. My hands shook as I posted it. I threw my phone face down on the bed, paced the room, stared at the ceiling. 20 minutes later, it had 200 views. Then 1,000. Then 5,000. By the next morning, it was at 30K. I woke up to missed calls, DMs, and comments from people I hadn't heard from in years. Some were supportive. OMG, I know exactly who you're talking about. I always got weird vibes from her. Thank you for saying what so many of us were afraid to. Others were cruel. This sounds bitter AF. Maybe you were the problem, and she just told the truth. Clout chasing much? And then there was a text from Alyssa. Alyssa Morgan. Wow. Really, Rachel? Alyssa Morgan. You could have just talked to me. But go off, I guess. Alyssa Morgan. You're seriously mentally unstable. I stared at those words for a long time. Mentally unstable. A classic Alyssa move. Flip the narrative. Make herself the victim. Make me the villain. But this time, I wasn't going to shrink away. I responded with one word. Noted. That week, everything changed. People started messaging me privately. Some from college, others from high school. One girl I barely knew, Ashley, told me Alyssa had once spread a rumor that she'd slept with a professor just to land a research assistant role. Another girl said Alyssa had sabotaged her internship by giving her wrong submission dates on purpose. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. Alyssa wasn't just toxic to me. She'd been toxic to a lot of people. And now they were talking. Some stitched my video on TikTok with their own stories. One girl showed screenshots of Alyssa mocking her weight in a group chat. Another shared DMs where Alyssa flirted with her boyfriend behind her back. The hashtag Alyssa Exposed began trending in our little social bubble. It felt surreal. I didn't plan for any of this. I just wanted to tell my story. But now the story had taken on a life of its own. And still, Alyssa said nothing publicly. No statement. No apology. No defense. But I could see her. She was watching. She posted cryptic quotes to her story. People will believe anything if it's loud enough. True friends stay silent through storms. Sometimes snakes wear halos. It was textbook manipulation. Still, part of me expected her to show up at my door. To cry. To scream. To say anything that resembled remorse. But the only sound from her end was silence wrapped in passive-aggressive noise. Until the DM came. It was from Kaylee, one of the girls from that patio conversation. Kaylee, hey. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but can we talk? I stared at the message for a while. Was this a trap? Or was the guilt finally cracking through? I messaged her back. Me, why now? Her reply came within seconds. Kaylee, because I didn't know she recorded you crying and sent it to the group chat. What? I sat up straight. My chest tightened. Me, what group chat? Kaylee, there's a private group chat. Just us close ones. She called it Rachel's breakdown vault. She used to send screenshots and voice notes of your convos. Sometimes she'd record your FaceTime calls and send them to us when you vented. We didn't know how bad it was until recently. She spun it like a joke. I couldn't breathe. Everything I had confided in Alyssa, my fears, my insecurities, the dark spiral I went through after college rejections, was out there. Mocked. Circulated. Laughed at. My panic turned into fire. Me. Do you have screenshots? 10 minutes later, I had them. Photos of Alyssa screen recording a call where I cried about failing an interview. A meme she made with my crying face. A caption, Rachel, EXC has stopped working. My entire stomach turned to ice. This wasn't just betrayal. This was emotional exploitation. And it was documented. I asked Kaylee for permission to share the screenshots. She said yes. I posted them that night. No video. Just the images. With one sentence. This is what my best friend did with my trust. The internet exploded. Thousands of comments. DMs. People tagging Alyssa. Her old friends unfollowing her. A few mutuals even shared their own stories now, emboldened by the proof. But even more unsettling than all of that was the email I got the next day. It was from a girl named Zoe. She didn't know me, but she knew of Alyssa. They had gone to a summer leadership camp 3 years ago. Zoe's email subject line read, "You're not the only one." She did worse to me. And what she shared changed everything. Zoe's message was long. The kind of email you read 3 times just to make sure you're not hallucinating. Hi Rachel. You don't know me, but I saw your video through a mutual friend. I wanted to say I believe you. I met Alyssa at a summer program in Vermont a few years ago. I was 17. And what she did to me still haunts me. My heart sank before I even clicked read more. Zoe went on to explain how she and Alyssa had shared a dorm suite during that leadership camp. How they bonded quickly. Alyssa was funny, magnetic, and charismatic, just like I remembered. Zoe had confided in her about her eating disorder, her self-harm, and the abusive relationship she had escaped just months before camp. Alyssa listened, hugged her, told her how brave she was. And then she used it. 2 weeks into camp, Zoe found out that Alyssa had been telling others she was crazy, obsessed with trauma, and manipulative. She even mocked Zoe in a voice note sent to someone Alyssa was trying to impress, imitating the way she cried and saying things like, "I swear to God, if I have to hear another poor me story from Zoe, I'll start trauma dumping for fun too." Zoe was humiliated. No one believed her. Alyssa had already poisoned their opinions. So she went silent, isolated, left the camp early. And for the next 2 years, she said she couldn't even be in group settings without feeling watched. "She broke something in me," Zoe wrote. "But seeing her story made me realize I'm not alone. I wish I had been brave enough to speak up earlier. You don't know what you've done for girls like me." I stared at my screen in disbelief. This wasn't just high school drama. This was calculated emotional cruelty. Patterned abuse. Zoe had receipts too. Old messages, screenshots, a blurry audio file where Alyssa mocked her sobbing. And I realized then, Alyssa didn't just turn on me.
She was always like this.
She just picked her victims carefully. The weight of that realization was like glass shattering in my chest. How many others were there? How many people had been silenced, manipulated, or emotionally dismantled by a girl who knew how to smile sweetly while twisting the knife? I decided to speak again. This time, I wasn't just telling my story. I was telling ours. The second video was different. More composed. More deliberate. I sat in front of a plain wall, holding Zoe's email with permission, and I read parts of it out loud. I blurred names. Protected privacy. But I exposed the pattern. I thought I was just overreacting. That maybe I was too sensitive, I said. But what do you call it when a person makes a habit out of turning pain into punchlines? I ended with, if you've ever had a best friend make you feel crazy, too sensitive, too emotional, too much, you are not alone. The video hit 100K views in 48 hours. I started receiving story after story. Girls. Some boys. Some non-binary people. All of them sharing how Alyssa used their secrets as weapons. A girl from theater camp said Alyssa outed her before she was ready. A freshman Alyssa mentored said she recorded her talking about suicidal thoughts and shared it in a group chat with a caption, "Should I call the hotline or send memes first?" I was sick reading these things. Physically sick. And yet oddly relieved. Because now everyone could see it. It wasn't just bitterness. It wasn't revenge. It was a pattern. Then, the twist I never saw coming. Alyssa's older sister, Betrayal, reached out. We'd met once, briefly. She was 3 years older. Always seemed more grounded. She messaged me. "Betrayal Morgan. Hey. I want you to know I've seen everything. And
I'm sorry.
I've known for years what Alyssa is like. But I never had the guts to speak out." I asked her what she meant. She called me instead. Her voice was low, careful, and tired. "I've covered for her since she was 15, Betrayal admitted. "She's always had this need. To be adored. To be the center. She weaponizes vulnerability." She shared how Alyssa had spread a rumor in their old town that Betrayal was sleeping with a teacher just to get attention when people stopped talking about her for a week. "I lost a scholarship because of that lie," she whispered. "She doesn't care who she burns down as long as she's holding the match." I couldn't breathe. This was deeper than I thought. It wasn't just betrayal. It was pathology. But nothing compared to what happened next. I received a DM from an anonymous account. No profile picture. No bio. Just a message that said, "You're playing a dangerous game, Rachel." I froze. My room felt suddenly colder. I clicked on the account. No posts. 0 followers. Just created. Another message followed. "Careful who you trust. Not everyone in your corner is loyal." My heart pounded. Was it Alyssa? One of her flying monkeys? Or someone pretending? I blocked the account, reported it, but I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I started wondering, had I gone too far? The next morning, someone egged my car. Yellow slime on the windshield, bits of shell sliding down the hood. Taped to my side mirror was a sticky note. This is just the beginning. I called the police, filed a report, but there wasn't much they could do without a name. My parents were furious. They wanted me to shut it all down, but I couldn't, because the moment I went quiet, she would win. Instead, I took precautions, changed my number, moved my location tag off all social accounts, started documenting everything, because if this escalated, I needed proof. And deep down, I knew the final confrontation was coming. Alyssa had been quiet for too long, but silence wasn't her style. No, she was the kind of person who needed an audience. So when she finally made her move, it was big and very public. 1 week later, I woke up to a tag video. Alyssa had posted a full response. 20 minutes. Dramatic lighting. Soft music. Her voice trembling with rehearsed emotion. She called the entire situation a witch hunt. Said she had made mistakes as a young woman just trying to find herself. She claimed I had edited the screenshots. Said Zoe was a bitter ex-friend who had always envied her success. And then, the most dangerous lie. She accused me of starting all of this because I was in love with her and got jealous when she pulled away. I felt the air leave my lungs. In one video, she tried to flip the entire narrative.
Make me look obsessed.
Unstable.
Predatory.
The comments were flooded. Some believed her.
Some didn't.
But I knew what she was doing. It was her final trick. If you can't kill the truth, assassinate the character. But this time I was ready. I wasn't the scared, quiet girl who let her narrate my reality. I responded. Not with rage. Not with a smear campaign. But with receipts. Full screen recorded footage. Metadata from Zoe's screenshots. Old messages that showed Alyssa saying, I know how to make people disappear online if they try me. And I ended the video with a sentence that sealed everything. You didn't break me. You revealed yourself. That night, I received a third email. Anonymous again. But this one had an attachment. A full screen recording of the group chat Alyssa ran called Broken Birds. It showed a list of victims. Stories. Screenshots of crying selfies. Edited videos made into memes. Her laughing about how gullible we all were. And right there, in black and white, was a message Alyssa had sent the night she made fun of me on the patio. Rachel thinks we're still friends. I swear, sometimes I forget she's not a parody. I had enough now. Enough to burn every bridge she had ever built. But the question clawed at my chest. Should I? Would I become like her? I didn't leave the house for 2 days after seeing that group chat video. It played on a loop in my head, her mocking laugh, the cold way she named us, one by one, like a hunter tallying trophies. Broken birds. She had categorized our pain, turned our breakdowns into entertainment. I kept thinking, she saw me cry. She held my hand. And all that time, she was collecting me like a story for her sick little cabinet. And now I had the proof. Undeniable, brutal proof. But I still hesitated. Because revenge is easy to imagine when you're furious. But when you're holding the truth like a loaded weapon, the weight is different. I sat in my room staring at my laptop, fingers hovering over the mouse. All I had to do was upload the video. One click. One press of post. And it would all come undone for her. Her scholarship?
Gone.
Her campus rep job?
Gone.
Her fake self-image? Obliterated. I wanted that. But I also wanted peace. I wanted to close the book without becoming the villain in a new one. So, I did something even more dangerous. I asked her to meet me. We met at a small cafe near the lake. Neutral territory. It was cloudy, one of those heavy gray mornings that makes the whole world feel muffled. Alyssa walked in like she always did. Sunglasses, tight jeans, fake smile painted on like armor. She sat down across from me and said, So, got it all out of your system yet? Not, hi. Not, how are you? just a smug, sharp little jab. I stared at her. No fear this time. Just disappointment.
Cold and heavy in my chest.
You've hurt people, I said. And you know it. She scoffed. I've made mistakes. People twist things. You think you're some crusader now? Come on. No, I replied. I think I'm someone you underestimated. Her jaw tightened. You built your entire personality around being loved. And now that people are seeing who you are, you're spiraling. A pause. Then her voice dropped, low and venomous. I gave you everything. I made you popular, Rachel. You were nothing before me. That was the final nail, because she actually believed that. She truly thought she made me. You didn't make me, I said softly. You made me small. Her face twitched. She wasn't used to losing control, especially not in public. Is that why you're leaking old messages? Trying to make me look like a monster? Because you can't handle the idea that I moved on. Moved on. I blinked. You didn't move on. You moved over people. I could see it then how everything she did was about climbing. Charm, sabotage, manipulation. All of it was just scaffolding to lift her higher while others sank. I reached into my bag and pulled out the printed screenshots. The ones from the Broken Birds group chat. Her eyes flicked to them and widened just for a second. Then the mask came back. Fake, she said quickly. Photoshopped. You really are obsessed. I let the silence stretch. You said I was a parody, I said quietly. That I'd never make it past freshman year without you. But I did. She didn't answer. I leaned forward. I have the full video, the metadata, the timeline, dozens of testimonies. It's not just me anymore. Alyssa looked away. Her mouth twitched.
I saw it.
That flicker of fear. Finally. I haven't posted it yet, I said. Her eyes snapped back to mine. But I will. Unless you do it first. What? I slid a folded paper across the table. On it, a brief apology, written out word for word. A statement of accountability. The names she had hurt. A promise to step down from campus leadership and seek counseling. If you post this publicly, I said, I won't release what I have. If you don't, every file goes online tonight. She stared at the page like it was poison. You can't blackmail me. This isn't blackmail. It's justice. I stood up, heart pounding. You've had power over people for years. This time, the power is mine. Then I walked out. The next 12 hours were torture. I kept refreshing her page. Her YouTube. Her Instagram. Nothing. No statement. No apology. Just another selfie captioned. It's always the bitter ones who scream the loudest. And with that, I uploaded everything. It went viral in hours. Thousands of shares. The video of her laughing about suicide. The screenshots from the Broken Birds chat. Her fake apology drafts to people she never intended to send. Even her old high school posts mocking teachers and classmates resurfaced. And people finally saw it. The mask slipped. The real Alyssa stood exposed. She deleted all her social media in one night. Her campus organization dropped her as rep. Her internship revoked their offer. And suddenly, Alyssa Morgan, the golden girl, was nowhere to be found. But her silence wasn't victory. Because I had finally spoken. The aftermath was a mix of victory and emotional whiplash. Yes, people praised me. Yes, strangers thanked me for my courage. But that didn't erase the pain. It didn't rebuild what she had broken inside me. And it didn't stop the nightmares. Weeks later, I was sitting in the school library when a girl I didn't recognize approached. She looked nervous. Young, she whispered. Are you Rachel? I nodded. She handed me a folded note and walked away. I opened it. Inside was a single line. Thank you for making the silence stop. It wasn't closure, but it was something. I went home that night and cried. Not out of pain, but release. I had carried that betrayal for too long. And now, I was finally free of it. But just when I thought it was over, I got a call. Private number. I answered. I lost everything because of you. It was Alyssa. I stood frozen. She continued, voice trembling with venom. You think you're the hero. You're not. You're just louder. And then, as she hung up, my hands shook, not out of fear, but rage. Because even now, she couldn't take responsibility. But I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Because I had learned the most powerful truth of all. Telling your story is the one thing no one can use against you. Weeks passed. The viral wave calmed. People moved on to other scandals, other betrayals, other headlines. But I was still here, standing in the quiet aftermath of everything I'd done. The fallout was permanent. There was no going back. And some part of me was still wrestling with that. Because exposing Alyssa wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming something she had stolen. But healing? That came much slower. I didn't expect the messages. They came from people I barely knew. Some from girls Alyssa had bullied in high school. Others from mutual friends who had drifted away without explanation. And now I knew why. Alyssa hadn't just poisoned my name recently, she had always been doing it. Backhanded comments, private gossip, tiny acts of sabotage that chipped away at relationships I thought I'd lost naturally. I thought you hated me, one message said. She told me you talk behind my back all the time. Another. I'm sorry I believed her. I should have known better. I cried over those. Not because they made me feel better, but because they made me realize just how isolated I'd become without even knowing it. She hadn't just taken my trust. She had taken my connections, my community, and now, piece by piece, I was building it back. But not everyone believed me. That's something they don't tell you about telling the truth. Some people will always call it drama. Why didn't you just confront her privately? You didn't have to ruin her life. She made one mistake. I learned that public justice comes with a private cost. Because not everyone wants the truth. Some people just want peace, even if it means keeping the silence intact. But I wasn't here to make everyone comfortable. I was here to survive. One evening, I was walking back from class when I noticed a familiar shape sitting on the stone bench outside the arts building. Hair pulled into a tight bun. Dark hoodie. Face downcast. It was Alyssa. My heart skipped. Not out of fear, but something deeper. Something complicated. I kept walking, thinking I'd pass by in silence. But then she looked up and said quietly, "You win." I stopped. Not because I wanted to, but because some part of me still needed to know what that meant. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just looked tired, hollow, like someone who had finally run out of performance. You wanted to ruin me.
You did, she said.
So, congratulations. I shook my head. This was never about ruining you. She laughed bitterly. Don't lie. You hated me. I trusted you, I said. That's worse. Her lips pressed together. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. And in that silence, I saw it. The fear she had hidden behind her cruelty. The desperation to be adored, admired, envied. She built her identity like a house of mirrors. And now that it had shattered, she didn't know who she was. I'm leaving school, she said finally. Can't even walk across campus without someone staring. I didn't respond, because I knew something she didn't. This wasn't punishment. It was consequence. You don't get to hurt people and then demand to disappear from the results. As I turned to leave, she called out, "Do you feel better now?" I paused, then answered honestly,
No.
Not better, just clearer. And I walked away. A month later, something strange happened. I got an email from a private, anonymous account. No message body. Just one attachment, a photo. It was a group picture. For girls sitting on a couch in some suburban living room.
Me.
Alyssa.
Kendra.
Jules. Taken maybe a year ago. Smiling, arms wrapped around each other like nothing could ever come between us.
I stared at it for a long time.
And then I noticed something strange. In the background, on the coffee table, was a phone. Alyssa's phone. Recording. I zoomed in. The screen showed the camera app open. Timer off. She had been recording that night. Not just taking photos. Recording. I felt a chill crawl down my back.
Why?
I remembered that night. We had talked about personal things, deep wounds,
Secrets.
and suddenly I realized she hadn't just betrayed us with words. She might have had video. All along. The email didn't have a sender. And I never got another message. I don't know if it was a warning, a threat, or some twisted farewell. But I deleted the photo, backed up everything important, changed my passwords, and decided something right then and there. No more fear, because I had already faced the worst of it and survived. By spring semester, things felt lighter. I started joining clubs again. I reconnected with Kendra. And for the first time in a long while, I laughed without looking over my shoulder. That's not to say it didn't leave scars. It did. Sometimes I'd catch myself overthinking every friendship, second-guessing every kind word, wondering who might be the next to turn. But slowly, I stopped letting that voice control me. Because one painful truth had set me free. You don't owe loyalty to someone who weaponizes your wounds. One night, while organizing old files on my laptop, I found a voice memo I forgot I had. It was from months ago, back when Alyssa and I were still best friends. In the clip, we were laughing. Genuinely. She said, "You know, Ratch, you're the only one who really gets me." I paused it there, because I finally understood something. Maybe in her own twisted way, she meant that. But her version of being understood came with a price I could never pay again. The final twist? A few weeks ago, I heard from someone who knows her. Alyssa had started a new account. Under a different name.
Different aesthetic.
Different voice. She was posting again. And people were listening. New people. People who didn't know her past. People who believed every soft-spoken word, every quote about healing and self-love. At first, I felt sick. Then, I smiled. Because I knew something they didn't. And maybe, someday, they'd learn the truth too. But for now, I wasn't chasing her anymore. I had already won the only way that mattered. By telling my story. Some monsters wear masks. But the scariest ones? They wear smiles. They braid your hair and whisper secrets and promise you forever. And when they finally show you who they really are, believe them. Because survival isn't always pretty, but it's powerful. And if you're reading this, maybe you've got a story too. One that someone tried to bury. If so, let me be the voice that reminds you. You're not alone. You never were.